Hi everyone, Miss Haig here. I hope you all are continuing to stay safe and well. Today we're going to focus on Chapter 4 and the representation of powerlessness. And your first task is on screen now. You've got 5 quotations from Chapter 4. I would like you to skim and scan the chapter and match the quotations to the character who said them. So you've got 5 quotations, but I am looking for 4 characters. Pause the video now, take a minute, and then let's see your answers. Okay, so let's have a little look at what those answers are. The first quotation, "I shouldn't ought to have let no stranger shoot my dog," was said by Candy. "Think I don't like to talk to someone ever once in a while," was Curly's wife. "He'll come back tonight, don't you think he will?" was Lenny. And then "nobody never gets to heaven and nobody gets no land, it's just in their head, and a guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody," was said by Crooks. Okay, so now we've got our quotations matched to the right character. What we're going to think about is what Steinbeck is trying to convey, what he's trying to show us and communicate with these particular quotations. So you're either going to want to print off this table or you're going to want to draw it out. Down the left-hand column, we've got the 5 quotes that we looked at just a minute ago, and you can quite easily now fill out the "who said that" box. So your focus is going to be the impact on the reader. What does Steinbeck want us to understand about the characters, and can you see any links between the quotations? I've done one example for you. I've chosen to look at Curly's wife. So Curly's wife said, "Think I don't like to talk to someone ever once in a while." Now previously we've seen Curly's wife as a flirt, as a character who goes around the ranch looking to tempt men. Steinbeck from the outset has had her dressed in red, in very glamorous red clothing. So she wears her mules with red ostrich feathers attached to them. She has her red dress, her red nails, her red lips. And the men describe her in quite a dangerous way. So they do say she's a flirt. They call her jailbait, a rat trap, a tart. So implying that she uses her sexuality, her looks, the fact that she's a woman, to cause trouble among the men on the ranch. But here we see something slightly different. Steinbeck is choosing to convey, to communicate, to highlight her loneliness, which changes our view of her behaviour. She might come across as flirty, but she might not be trying to flirt with the men to start a romantic relationship as much as she's simply trying to get them to engage with her, to talk to her and find companions, friends, people with common ground that she can engage with. So what I would like you to do now is focus on the impact on the reader for the final 4 quotations that we matched in the previous task. I've put a note next to Crooks's first quotation. He's talking there about the American dream, land, i.e. an independent farm in this case, or an independent farmhouse. So what is Steinbeck trying to communicate, trying to convey with those quotations? Pause the video and fill out your table. Okay, so now we are going to read through our extract. I've put some images on the screen that might not make sense right now, but this is just additional context that might help you make sense of some of the characters' dreams. And we'll discuss that once we've read the extract. So feel free just to listen or to read along as you go. "She watched for a moment, and then she laughed. 'Baloney, what you think you're selling me? Curly started summit he couldn't finish. Caught in a machine. Baloney. Why, he ain't give nobody the good old 1-2 since he got his hand bust. Who bust him?' Candy repeated sullenly, Got it caught in a machine. All right, she said contemptuously. All right, cover him up if you wanna. What do I care? You bindlebums think you're so damn good. What do you think I am, a kid? I tell you, I could have went with the shows. Not just one, neither. And a guy told me he could put me in pictures. She was breathless with indignation. Saturday night, everybody out doing summer. Everybody. And what am I doing? Standing here talking to a bunch of bindle stiffs, a hen and a dum-dum and a lousy old sheep, and liking it because they ain't nobody else. Lenny watched her, his mouth half open. Crooks had retired into the terrible protective dignity of the Negro. But a change came over old Candy. He stood up suddenly and knocked his nail keg over backward. I had enough, he said angrily. You ain't wanted here. We told you you ain't. And I tell you, you got floozy ideas about what us guys amount to. You ain't got sense enough in that chicken head to even see that we ain't stiffs. Suppose you get us canned. Suppose you do. You think we'll hit the highway and look for another lousy two-bit job like this? You don't know that we got our own ranch to go to and our own house. We ain't got to stay here. We got a house and chickens and fruit trees and a place 100 times prettier than this. And we got friends, that's what we got. Maybe there was a time when we was scared of getting canned, but we ain't no more. We got our own land, and it's ours, and we can go to it. Curly's wife laughed at him. Baloney, she said. I seen too many you guys. If you had 2 bits in the world, why you'd be getting 2 shots of corn with it and sucking the bottom of the glass. I know you guys. Curly's face, Candy's face, had grown redder and redder, but before she was done speaking, he had control of himself. He was the master of the situation. I might have knew, he said gently. Maybe you just better go along and roll your hoop. We ain't got nothing to say to you at all. We know what we got and we don't care whether you know it or not. So maybe you just better scatter along now, 'cause Curly maybe ain't gonna like his wife out in the barn with us bindle stiffs. She looked from one face to the other, and they were all closed against her. And she looked longest at Lenny, till he dropped his eyes in embarrassment. Suddenly she said, Where'd you get them bruises on your face? Lenny looked up guiltily. Who, me? Yeah, you. Lenny looked to Candy for help, and then he looked at his lap again. He got his hand caught in a machine, he said. Curly's wife laughed. Okay, machine. I'll talk to you later. I like machines. Candy broke in. You let this guy alone. Don't you do no messing around with him. I'm going to tell George what you says. George won't have you messing with Lenny. Who's George? She asked. The little guy you come with. Lenny smiled happily. That's him, he said. That's the guy, and he's going to let me tend the rabbits. Well, if that's all you want, I might get a couple of rabbits myself. Crooks stood up from his bunk and faced her. I had enough, he said coldly. You had got no rights coming in a coloured man's room. You got no rights messing around in here at all. Now just you get out and get out quick. If you don't, I'm going to ask the boss not to let you come in the barn no more. She turned on him in scorn. Listen, N, she said. You know what I can do to you if you open your trap? Crooks stared hopelessly at her. And then he sat down on his bunk and drew into himself. She closed on him. You know what I could do? Crooks seemed to grow smaller, and he pressed himself against the wall. Yes, ma'am. Well, you keep your place then, N. I could get you strung upon a tree so easy it ain't even funny. Okay, so that's the extract we're going to be working with today. And the pictures on the screen relate to Curly's wife. She refers to the idea that a guy told her he could put me in pictures. And what she's referring to is the pictures, the movies, Hollywood. And Hollywood at this time was at its golden age. It was incredibly glamorous. It had a studio system, so you got hired by a studio, such as the picture at the top centre of your screen, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, and you worked for that studio. And some of the most popular movies ever made were made at this time because people didn't have television. So Gone with the Wind is now seen as a classic, but it was one of the most popular movies ever made and was seen by millions of people at the time. That was a drama, but you also had musicals such as Top Hat with Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire was quite a famous dancer at the time, as was Ginger Rogers, and that was used as part of that movie to sell it. He had some of the most glamorous movie stars now, far more glamorous than they are these days. On screen, you've got Marlene Dietrich, you've got Lana Turner, Humphrey Bogart, Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, and they were really seen as idols, and Hollywood hasn't quite matched up to this glamour since. It's always known as the golden age of Hollywood because it's seen as when it was perfect, and that's what Curly's wife aspired to be. Instead, she's on a ranch in Central California talking to people that she doesn't really want to be talking to. Okay, so here are your first tasks, and we are colour grouping them. So I hope you remember your colour group. If not, get in touch and ask. If you're in purple and yellow group, I want you to complete the following 3 tasks. I want you to find a quote that shows Curly's wife feels isolated. I want you to find a quote that shows Candy feels more powerful. And I want you to find a quote that shows Crooks follows Candy's lead. If you're in the green group, I would like you to reread the extract, highlight 2 quotes that characterise Curly's wife, Candy and Crooks, so 2 quotations for each, and then annotate what is learnt about the characters through those quotations. And then finally, if you are in red and blue groups, I want you to select 5 quotations that look at how the theme of power and control is explored in that extract. So 5 quotations that demonstrate the theme, considering the way in which Steinbeck uses contrast. So see if you can pick that out. And I want you to annotate for the impact of each quote. So again, pause your video and annotate on your extract, please. Okay, now we're back. We're going to look at sections of that extract in a bit more detail. So we're looking towards the start of the extract here. The paragraph, all right, she said contemptuously. All right, cover him up if you wanna. What do I care? You bindlebums think you're so damn good. So if you can find that paragraph for me, I think it's the 2nd or 3rd paragraph on your extract. And I want you to annotate to tell me, what do we learn about Curly's wife from this speech, please? So pause the video and annotate for me. Okay, now we're going to move towards the middle of the extract. Candy has just exploded, for want of a better reason, at Curly's wife, and that's what we have here. So I want to know, how has Candy changed in that extract, and what gives him the strength, do you think, to speak to Curly's wife in the way that he does? Because he uses some pretty strong language and some insults here as well, such as saying that she's got a chicken head, so presumably that she's got a very small brain, she's stupid. Okay, so what has changed about Candy in the extract, and what has given him strength? Pause the video and annotate, please. Okay, now we're back then. We're looking further down the extract. We are in the middle. Candy's face had grown redder and redder, but before she was done speaking, he had control of himself. So find that paragraph for me. I want you to choose 3 phrases that further support the idea that Candy has grown in strength. So where do we see this idea that he feels much stronger than Curly's wife? Pause the video and annotate. Finally, we're going to have a little look at the exchange between Crooks and Curly's wife. So if you can find the extract, please, or the paragraph of your extract that begins, Crooks stood up from his bunk and faced her. How is momentum created there? And what we're talking about with regard to momentum is we're talking about that sense of power and control, but the idea that that is building here. So what about the way Crooks speaks creates momentum? So pause your video and annotate for me, please. And then finally, we're going to have a look at this extract here that's coming up on screen. How does Curly's wife destroy the momentum that Crooks had built? So what does she do and how does she go about destroying it? And you can make use, ladies and gents, of all that contextual work we've done on race relations in 1930s America. Pause the video and annotate for me, please. Okay, so to finish off then, ladies and gents, I want you to write me down 3 bullet points. Why do you think Steinbeck presents characters who are isolated from their peers? Peers, we're talking about people who are of the same status as them or in the same situation. So all of the ranch workers and Curly's wife would be considered peers. So why does Steinbeck present characters who are isolated from their peers? 3 bullet points to show me. What do you think he's trying to achieve? Why do that? And that's it, ladies and gents. I look forward to seeing your uploads. Don't forget, take a photo for me or send me a copy of the file. And I look forward to seeing the work that you've done. See you soon.